Hello everyone, this is Just a Dad. Today I'm going to do an unboxing and a detailed review on the Ninja coffee maker. I got this one at Walmart for $70. It's the CE200, CE200. They sell it on Amazon. It's a little bit different color. It's the CE251 for $70. This is a 12-cup programmable coffee maker. So the first part of this video, I'm just going to unbox it really quick and kind of show you what the coffee maker is and how it looks, and then I'll brew some coffee, then I'll set the time and the program. Okay, so on this panel it tells you before your first brew, you definitely want to make sure and do this. You're going to run a full reservoir of water through the coffee maker just to kind of clean out the inside of the coffee maker. Okay, so as we open it up, here's what we get. The manual, we got some cardboard on top. I'm going to put this on its side and get it out on its side. Sometimes that's a little easier to do. Yeah, be careful when you're unpackaging these. Sometimes the coffee pots can fall out and break. Okay, so there is about 4 pieces of tape around it. You do have some cardboard. Make sure you remove this piece of cardboard. That's a warming plate. You don't want that, and remove this cardboard. Okay, so here's everything you get in the box. You get a manual. I do like to give you some number 4 cone filters, paper filters. That's really nice. So here we got a coffee pot. Again, this has a warming plate, so it's going to keep your coffee warm. This is not a hinged lid, but yet you rotate it to lift it up. And it's got that like mixing tube, so the coffee comes in here, goes to the bottom of the pot to help mix it up. And here we have our brew basket. There's the number 4 cone filters, what we're going to put in there. Talks about an extra large brewing head. It's got a removable water reservoir. It's got a really nice, you can kind of grab it. It's pretty big, but it's easy to hold and fill up. Here's the control panel. Looks like we've got delay brew, small batch, classic, rich. There's the brew button. You got a clean button and a light and a power button. Around the side, we've got the scoop. Looks like it's just got one scoop inside. That stores very nicely. We do have cord storage, and here's where your serial number is. Very important. Cord's a standard length. It's got a warning on it. It says don't plug it into an extension cord, and it's 2-prong. So Ninja coffee makers generally do look really good. This is a very good looking coffee maker. Let's go over dimensions. So about 9.5, almost 10 inches side to side. Front to back about another 9 inches. So everybody wants to know, will it fit under a kitchen cabinet? No, this will not. So that lid is pretty tall. The machine is only 14 inches tall, but the lid's almost 22 inches tall. You know, the water reservoir is made to come off and fit under a cabinet, but that's just a really tall lid. You definitely want it to stay open so that you can do your work in here. Okay, so I've got it plugged in. The display looks really nice. The clock's kind of small. It's on steady. It's not flashing like that. And again, it's got a power button. We just turn the power button on. That lights up. There, so you can see it. So then you can pick rich, classic, or a small batch. Delay brew, stay warm. That's for the warming plate. And time. And then when you're ready to brew, it's just got a brew button. Just start the brew. So I'm going to turn it off right now. So when you turn it off, this goes to kind of a dimmer display. Okay, so before you use one of these coffee makers, they want you to fill the reservoir up to the 12-cup mark. Run a pot of fresh water through it to kind of just clean the inside of the machine. I'm going to do that, and then I'll get back with you here, and then we'll do a pot of coffee. I do like the reservoir. It is pretty easy to fill up with water. It's kind of easy to handle. And it sits on the counter. Okay, so to get it to the 12 mark, it does fill it up pretty full. So you can use the coffee pot You can use this to fill up the water reservoir, or you can take the reservoir off and fill it up. Okay, so it's pretty important to get this lid on. I didn't have it on right. If it's cocked up a little bit, you may think it's on, but it doesn't go in the machine very well. So make sure it's nice and flush. Kind of push down as you turn. Then when it's on, it goes in there really nice. I was kind of fighting it there for a little bit, but now it goes good. So again, it does come with a number 4 cone filter. It does not come with a reusable filter, but it looks like a reusable filter will work. Yeah, the reusable filters will work. These are extra. I'm going to use a paper filter. So a cone filter, you got to kind of separate them. Then you got to kind of smash them in there like that and make them hug the walls. Okay, so here we got the manual and the scoop. We're going to figure out how much. So it says this scoop is equivalent to 1 tablespoon. So if you lose your scoop, just use a tablespoon. So if we do a full coffee pot, 12 cups, we need 12 tablespoons. So that's pretty nice. It pretty much is in line with how many ever cups you're going to brew is how many tablespoons you put in. And same with the small batch. So again, I just use standard coffee grounds for like a drip coffee maker. And they should be ground at a medium grind. So this scoop works really nice. I'm going to put 12 scoops in here. 2. Okay, so I've got my 12 tablespoons of coffee in there. It's pretty high in the filter. We want to be sure and close this. There, it's nice and flush. Now with some Ninja coffee makers, they have a selector and it lets you select, oh, I want to brew a full pot, a half a pot, or a cup. This is not like that. So whatever water you put in here is how much it's going to brew. So I've got it filled up to the 12, or it's just a little shy of the 12. But I've got it filled all the way up. That's what it's going to brew when I select the brew button. So again, I got to turn the coffee maker on. Now be careful, this small batch light was lit when I first started. You don't want the small batch light lit. If I'm going to do a full pot, I want to make sure that light's off. Now I can do a classic brew or a rich brew. A rich brew takes about 4 or 5 minutes longer to brew. I'm going to do a classic brew. And again, there's nowhere on here do I tell you like, oh, brew a half a pot, brew a 4 cup, brew a travel mug. No, whatever water I put in here. So this, if you're used to Ninja coffee makers, they've got, some of them got selectors and you can select how much you want to brew. And the water reservoir is just kind of a reservoir you keep full all the time. But this water reservoir actually is what you're actually going to brew. So again, I had to turn the power button on. Make sure your coffee pot's empty, and I'm just going to hit, I got the classic brew selected, I'm just going to hit the brew button. So the stay warm light came on, and the brew light came on. The stay warm light's on because that's letting me know the warming plate's on. So there's something to Ninja coffee makers, and some other coffee makers do this too. They call it blooming. So the coffee maker is going to start, and it's going to send some hot water over the coffee grounds, but then it's going to stop. And they call that the pause. And so if you're not used to it, you may not be used to the pause. But what that does is that lets that CO2 come off when it pauses. It's called blooming. So right now the coffee maker it's still brewing. There, it's doing its brewing. And I suspect here in a minute it's going to pause. Okay, it just paused. So let's see if we can see the bloom. Not too bad, not too bad. I've got a Mocha Master here, and you should see when it blooms its coffee. It's pretty cool looking. So it's been about a minute. So it doesn't pause super long, and it's more of a surging pause. It's more of a put some water in there and then pause, put some water in there and then pause. The lid kind of talks about it too. It says there will be a pause, and that's okay. Pause is just part of the pre-infusion cycle. Okay, so it's been about 3 minutes. We're down to the 8-cup mark. That's a pretty good bloom on the coffee grounds. Now this does have pause brewing, so if I wanted to grab a quick cup of coffee, I could. There's a plunger that's going to come down and stop the coffee from coming out. And then when I put it back in, it continues the brew process. Most standard coffee makers have that. Now I do notice this is a very quiet coffee maker. I think I do hear a water pump running, but I'm not quite sure. Most standard coffee makers don't use a water pump. They just heat the water and it shoots it up over there. So that may be what they're doing here, but sometimes ninjas use water pumps. But this is an extremely quiet coffee maker. So another thing they pride themselves on is the constant temperature. The water is heated to an ideal temperature between 195 and 200 and kept there. Let's open this up, see how it's doing. Ooh, it's getting pretty high in the filter basket. I would like to see it not get that high, because if it overflows that filter, you'll get coffee grounds into your coffee pot, but it hasn't done that yet. So I've got a thermometer in the top of the water that's sitting right on top of the coffee. It is 195, and it does seem pretty consistent. Okay, so let's see how it's doing. Boy, that water gets pretty high. So towards the end of the brew, it does get pretty loud. There's a lot of steam coming up here. Be careful, that gets really, really hot. So let's take a look. Boy, it got really high in that filter basket. Okay, so it does beep at you when it's done. Now this thing will stay warm for 2 hours. It's going to keep the warming plate on for 2 hours, and then the coffee maker will shut off automatically. You can adjust that, and I'm going to show you how to adjust that later in the video. But I just wanted you to hear the beep. So it does beep at you when it's done. They're not super loud. Let's take a look how the filter basket did. You know, it got pretty darn high in that filter. Man, I don't think it went over, but I don't like to see it get that water level get that high. When that water level gets that high, it can flow over the filter and you'll get coffee grounds into your coffee so easy. So I really would have liked to seen that not get that high. Okay, so let's see how it pours. Wow, it pours really quick, so be careful. That's probably the fastest pouring coffee pot I've ever reviewed. Wow, that really came out quick. All right. Wow, that's some of the hottest coffee I've ever. That's a really hot cup of coffee. Normally, like Mr. Coffees and them are around 160, 165 maybe. Yeah, I saw 178 for a second. Wow, that's hot. Now earlier I did taste this. I did a small batch earlier. It tasted really good. I can't taste that. That's some super hot coffee right now. But this does make a good pot of coffee. And I do think that bloom, this technology that they're talking about, a lot of the more expensive ones do this. Now, did this pause a bunch? You know, I wasn't super impressed with the pause. It felt more like some coffee makers actually will brew some water and then they actually pause. This one just kind of like was brew and then pause for just a little bit and then brew. So, but it did look like it got a pretty good bloom on it, but then it fills the basket up pretty high with water. So, but the temperature, I did see 195 there pretty regularly. And again, it sucked all the water out of the reservoir. So whatever water you put in here is what it's going to brew. If I just wanted to do 6 cups, I would fill it up to the 6-cup mark. I would put 6 tablespoons in the filter basket, and I would still just hit the brew button on I could do a classic or a rich. And just by hitting the brew button, it's going to brew 6 cups. So again, whatever water you put in here is what it's going to brew. Okay, so let's go over cleanup. It does have this nice handle. That's one of the biggest handles I've seen for a brew basket. So it's not going to drip on you. There's that plunger. that keeps the water from coming out. So now we can throw that out. Yeah, sorry about that. So that took about 11 minutes, almost 12 minutes to brew that full pot of coffee. So again, the coffee maker, the stay warm light is on because the warming plate's on, but if I want to turn it off, I got to hit the power button. Now that'll turn the coffee maker off right now. So I always dump the coffee onto a white plate, and you can see if it's got any coffee grounds. I don't see any coffee grounds in this coffee maker. That's a good sign. And again, cleanup is a little different. I'm not quite used to that. So, but this is a nice coffee carafe. All three of these are dishwasher safe on the top rack. So putting the brew basket in is pretty simple. It's got this big notch, and the handle is going to go up front. So that's off center just a little bit, but mainly the handle is what you're going to use. And make sure it's not off a little bit so that the lid closes all the way. And there's cleanup. I'm going to show you how to set the delay brew and the time on this Ninja coffee maker. Okay, first we're going to set the time. Make sure the power button's off. You're going to come up here and hit the hour button, and it's going to start flashing. Then set the time. So right now it is 3 p.m. and then you got the minute button. So it is 3:45 p.m. right now. Then it'll, after it stops flashing, it will memorize it. Okay, so it's memorized right now. Now we want to set the delay brew. So say you want to wake up and have a fresh pot of coffee ready to go. Now they do recommend that you don't fix this way ahead of time. So if you wake up at 5 and you want your coffee at 5:30, start this at 5:15 in the morning. So 15 minutes before you're ready to start drinking, I would start this coffee maker. Or maybe even 5 or 10 minutes. You know, when you're out here, you can, it'll start going, but it'll be ready to go when you're ready. So the night before, make sure you fill it up with water. Make sure you put your filter and the coffee grounds in. Okay, so in order to set the delay brew, you've got to turn the coffee maker on. Then you're going to press the delay brew button. When I press it, it changes the time, and now set the time you want this to come on in the morning. I want this to come on at 5:16 in the morning. Then I'm going to press, I want a classic brew. Or no, I'm sorry. Press the delay brew one more time. Then I'm going to press classic brew. Okay, sorry about that. You got to pick what you want first. So before you press the delay brew, do you want a rich brew, a classic brew, or a small batch classic brew? You can do a small batch rich brew too. So let's do a classic brew, then hit the delay brew button. Now set your time. I've got the time set. Let's do 5:17. Now hit the delay brew button one more time, and then it memorizes it. It leaves the power button on, and it leaves it selected where you had it selected, and the delay brew light's on. This is how you have to leave it when you go to bed. Don't hit the brew button or anything. If you try to turn it off, it's going to beep at you saying, whoa, something's not right. You got delay brew selected, leave the power on. Okay. But it did turn the power off, so now I got to turn, and it turned the delay brew off. So now I got to turn the power back on and hit the delay brew one more time. And then if you just let it time out, it will turn the delay brew on. You don't necessarily have to hit that button again. So again, just leave it just like this. Don't turn the power button off because it will turn it off, but it's going to beep at you, let you know, hey, you're not doing something right. So go to bed with the delay brew light on, your classic brew or whatever you want to brew, and the power button. So now I'm going to show you how to you can set how long the warming plate stays on. That's the stay warm button. Its default is 2 hours, but you can have it on from 0 to 4 hours, and I'm going to show you. So you got to press the stay warm button. Make sure the unit's on. Now it's going to flash 2 hours. That's what the default is. I can go all the way up to 4 hours, or I can go to 0 hours. That means the coffee maker will turn the warming plate off as soon as it's done brewing coffee. And now it memorized it. So now I got to go back, hit the stay warm button again. See, that's what it memorized. So I want to change it. I can go in 15-minute increments. So if I know I'm only around for 45 minutes, just leave it on 45 minutes. Now let it sit here and it'll memorize it. Okay, it's memorized. I'm gonna go back in there and change it to 2 hours. 2 hours. Okay, just let it sit and it'll memorize it. This thing also has a clean light. The clean light comes on, it's letting you know it's time to descale it. And it also has a cleaning function, a mode that you can go into when you press that button. I'm going to do a separate video on how to clean this coffee maker with distilled white vinegar. Okay, so I am going to give this a just a dad sticker seal of approval. There's a few things I would like to see a little better. I would like it to not get as high in the filter basket as it did with the water. I do like how it brewed, and it did make a bloom with the coffee grounds. It's very functional, it's very stylish, very quiet. It does make a really good pot of coffee. It is a cone filter. Cone filters are known to make really good cups of coffee. It is very simple. I like water reservoirs that are removable. You'd be surprised, some coffee makers, you can't remove the water reservoir and they're very hard to clean. But this one, coffee pot, but now be careful. The one thing, so that did pour really, really fast. My next video is going to be how to clean it. So this does have a clean light, like I said, and I'm going to show you how to descale it with distilled white vinegar according to the manual that it comes with. I'm going to put a link to this in the show description on Amazon. I am an Amazon associate now, so if you do click on the link, I do get a little bit of money from that, and that's to help support me when I buy things off of Amazon to do my reviews with. Thanks everybody for your support, and if you could, please like and subscribe.